little organizational meeting of Governmental Affairs. I want you to know that I missed each and every one of you during the course of the summer and the fall. And we've got a few changes that I want to go over briefly. First of all, and people are meeting with their constituents, but I wanted to congratulate former Vice Chair Buzz Brockway and former Secretary Darlene Taylor, who did great work on this committee. Both of them have been elevated to chairman, so congratulations. Additionally, that means that we have some openings, and today is Augusta Day, and our new vice chair is Barry Fleming, who is very, very capable, and he's meeting with them, so congratulations to him, and congratulations to Eddie Lumsden, the new Secretary of Governmental Affairs. Additionally, we have quite a few new members, as we had some people that got appointments and fun things like that, so I'd like to welcome Shaw Blackman. Shaw, where you at? Right here, there you go. And Rhonda Burneau. I want to go Burneau. Welcome, Rhonda.
Thank you.
Jay Collins. Welcome, Jay. Bob Trammell, new to the committee, but not new to the House. Scott Turner, ditto. Welcome. And Renita Shannon, welcome to you. We're going to meet, our time is scheduled for Wednesdays at 1 o'clock here in room 406. I'm one of those that everybody kind of does it a little differently, but I expect for a lot of the heavy lifting in this committee to be done through the subcommittees. We ask the people in the audience that if you've got something that changes it dramatically, I'd appreciate a heads up. We don't want to do anything that guts the bill or works around the process or anything like that. It's not one of those that is taken kind of, very kindly. We do have the rules in front of us, and I'm going to give the members a few minutes, but I would like to highlight some of the changes that have been made. In paragraph 3A, you'll notice that on the third line it basically says introduced during one legislative session and studied over an interim. Before, we had the rule that said it must be introduced during the first year. There's been some unintended consequences as some of these kinds of things as we try to reach out and work with people and their concerns. The purpose of dealing with the creation of a municipality is nothing has changed. It's still going to be a 2-year process. But as you know, last year, because we don't want to, the last thing we ever want to do is to say you've got to do A, B, and C, and then you come back doing A, B, and C, and then we tell you, oh, by the way, we've changed it. You also have to do D, E, and F, kind of a grandfathering, if you will. And so this gives us the availability, as we saw a few bills that were dropped late in session last year. And Tom, thank you for that. Sometimes you get the slings and arrows of something that people don't know, and they just look at it in the worst possible light and frankly use it for fodder as if we're trying to somehow manipulate the system instead of giving good, transparent government. So as it relates to the municipalities, it'll still be, or creation of new cities, it'll still be a 2-year process. Of course, if it is introduced in the second year of a biennium, then as Legislative Council would tell you, and all of us know, you still have to kind of reintroduce it the first year. But nevertheless, it's a placeholder, so it's still a 2-year process. On the second page, in the second paragraph, in addition to the feasibility study that's always been asked and required, an additional report shall be made to the committee stating the services to be supplied by the citizens. We've all that's been used to this have heard this before, and the one I like to use as the example is if you're going to create a new city and someone says you're going to get a library as one of those services, it's never been defined, and it's not our objective to try to find libraries in state code. But each and every citizen has the right, if they expect a brick and mortar kind of library versus a bookmobile that comes around, once a year, there's a difference between the two. So what we want them to do is to be able to just report to the committee exactly how they expect those services to be rendered in order to create transparency. As you know, one side always says you're going to get $1 million in tax increases, and the other side says no, you're not, but you're going to get all these grand things. And we just want to make sure that the people are as informed as possible. We also want them to tell us, and if you look at the last sentence there, how they're going to inform the voters of that, be it as part of the ballot question or an illegal advertisement or something that they come up with, so the people know specifically what they're doing, as opposed to misinformation from one side or the other. And I did talk to some of the people involved in that, and got some suggestions from them, and I'd like to thank them in advance for that. Additionally, you'll notice that no incorporations right after that contains a provision that will limit the full exercise of municipal powers by the proposed municipality, commonly referred to as city light, shall be considered by the committee. And our able legal counsel has assured us that nothing, if it's not going to get it here, it's not going to be discussed if it resembles anything that someone wants to go out there and fearmonger with by calling it city light. That's not what we do. So we wanted to make sure that our rules stated clearly, so if somebody wants to sit there and say, y'all passed a city light bill, our rules prohibit that. And I'd like to thank legal counsel for helping us with that. Right under that paragraph, you will notice that any other government entity that may be affected by the proposed incorporation may, that's the key word, may be permitted to submit to the chairman impact studies on the effects of the proposed incorporation on such government or other governments. The Association of County Commissioners has long maintained that there's an impact on the counties. The last thing we want to do is force them to do that, because we know they don't want unfunded mandates. So they may submit that report to us if it has an impact. It is not part of the decision-making of this particular committee. That's for the local voters back home to decide on how relevant that is. But we don't want anybody to go out there and mislead anybody and let them think that we don't care about how it may affect them. So they may, we wanted to put shall, we talked about that, but again, some communities may take that as an unfunded mandate, and that's the last thing that we wanted to do. We are going to ask, however, that if you do that, if you do submit the impact on what it has on that government entity, that you do it through the same Carl Vinson Institute of Government or the Andrew Young School of Policy Studies, as opposed to hiring someone where we wouldn't know their area of expertise on that. So it'd be the same kind of group that the proposed municipality has to use in that creation of a city, instead of going out and just hiring the so-called expert. And I believe that is a copy of the rule changes. Again, trying to create greater transparency, let the public know exactly what the services are and any cost involved. Any questions from members of the committee? 27. Who we have at 27? Tom?
Appropriate time,
Representative
like
Taylor.
to make a motion.
All right, thank you. Representative, is that you, Representative Oliver? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am trying to remember and can't remember all of the discussion we had about this issue of city light, which is on the second. I don't object to this. I just want to understand that what you're saying, I think, and Mr. Lanier can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the creation of a new city shall not be implemented in a way that prohibits the municipality from expanding the services at a later date. Or are you saying the reverse?
There's nothing that's correct. There's nothing that prohibits it from expanding services at a later date. Is that right, Mr.?
That's correct. It's designed so that we won't consider a city light.
Right. I think that came up 5, 6, 7 years ago. I can't even remember, Peachtree Corners or something. And we just want to make sure that this committee doesn't do anything that authorizes that. Thank you for the question.
So what that means is that a city has to provide three services, but providing three services does not limit the city after it's incorporated from providing 4, 5, or 6 more.
Correct.
Okay.
Representative Taylor, I'll recognize you at this time. Chairman Taylor, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Move that we adopt the rules.
Got a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Thank you for your cooperation on that. Additionally, you will find in your folder the new lineup for the Governmental Affairs subcommittees, elections, local government, state administration. I think so far we're sitting on close to a dozen bills, so we're going to be rolling up our sleeves rather quickly. Again, my intention is that the majority of the work is done in a full committee for the benefit of those chairs. I've had that discussion with them. That includes testimony. It's unlikely that generally I'll take testimony in full committee if they had the opportunity of doing that in subcommittee. I will note that all subcommittee chairs at the bottom are ex officio members of the other subcommittees as well as the officers within the full committee are all ex officio of all subs as well. So, any questions on that? Yes, Congresswoman. What number? Representative Price.
So do we, if you have a bill assigned to the committee, do you go through the subcommittee first or the full, or through
Well,
you?
that is at the discretion of the chair. But what'll happen is for those that do that in my office is a sign-up sheet and a form on the presentation of the bill, and it asks some basic questions of what the bill does, any opposition, things of this nature. So everyone needs to fill one of those out. We'll review it, and then I'll decide which subcommittee it is appointed to.
And then the hearing would be in that
In the sub.
entity? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
That said, I don't want to misquote anybody, but Craig has a sign up that many of y'all have seen right above his desk that says "No crying in governmental affairs." There's the strong likelihood that once or twice or dozens of times, you know, unless you come to me and make a compelling argument, there are bills that sometimes aren't going anywhere, and I'm not, unless you need something for your constituency or something, and I generally will let someone know it's not going anywhere, so whatever the case may be, and we won't even assign it to sub, but generally speaking, we'll give it to a subcommittee. Anything else? Thank the members for attending, and thank y'all for being here. We're adjourned.